This is Valley News Live at 6.
It is so cold outside that these eggs were stacked and froze on top of each other. This picture was sent today during the early morning hours. And a few hours later, we got this photo. It's from Waubun, Minnesota, where the temperature apparently dropped to 40 below zero. The temps have climbed during the day, but not enough to change anyone's opinion of what it's like out there. And we have to worry about tonight. Let's begin with our chief meteorologist, Hutch Johnson, who joins us with an early look at our chilling conditions. Hutch?
Mike, thanks so much. Morning temperatures across the valley were brutal to start out this work week. 20 below in Fargo-Moorhead. Up north along the international border, we had some 30s below, including Rolla, Langdon, as well as you folks in the Lake of the Woods area and Badette. Factor in winds, and right now we have wind chills between 20 below and 50 below. It's brutal out there, particularly along and north of Highway 2, where this morning that wind chill reached 57 degrees below zero in Langdon. Wow, brutal temperatures out there. It continues this evening. Wind chill warning for northern counties, wind chill advisory here in the south. A gorgeous setting sun, but you cannot judge a picture by its book. That's what happens when it's this cold outside to your brain. Temperatures are going to be in the teens below. Wind chills 25 to 50 below this evening with winds that taper off a little bit. I'll have details on how long this stretch of cold weather will be. It looks like we're going to have to learn to live with this for some time. Details in a moment.
All right, thanks so much. Look forward to the information, Hutch. We have another warning for you tonight from a woman who is sharing her unnerving experience in a Fargo restaurant parking lot. Fargo police say they've responded to 6 suspicious activity calls within the last 11 days in the 13th Avenue South corridor. Valley News Team's crime and safety reporter Bailey Hurley spoke exclusively with the latest victim today, who says women in the metro need to be on high alert.
It was only 6:30 Friday night when Vicky was walking out of the Red Lobster on 13th Avenue when she says a man came out of nowhere and grabbed her arm.
I didn't acknowledge him. I mean, my focus was, I'm just going to get myself in the car because I don't know what this guy wants. And I quickly locked the door and I turned, but he then just stood right behind my car and I was like, I'm just going to run this guy over.
After what Vicky says felt like hours, she was able to safely drive away and soon called the Red Lobster manager, who she says told her this was the second incident in less than half an hour to happen in the parking lot. However, Fargo police say they were only notified of Vicky's incident.
I mean, it definitely makes you think twice about going to places alone, which is really sad.
Red Lobster does not have security cameras, which Vicky says needs to change, along with adding more lighting in the parking lot. Fargo police say at this time they will not be adding extra patrols in the 13th Avenue corridor, as the department already has a large presence in that area. Police urge you to call them immediately if something similar happens to you, saying there's no call too small for police to look into.
I hear the same thing, is that people, they call it, say, we didn't want to bother you. They're never bothering us, because many times those little things like that can turn into something big. If you think it's suspicious, call us, and we'll decide whether or not we're going to send an officer out or if it needs further follow-up and attention.
In Fargo, Bailey Hurley, Valley News Live.
Now, police also say of the 6 incidents in that specific area, 3 of them seem to have the same person involved, who police say is known to them and known to walk up to people and say uncomfortable things. We are awaiting details from authorities as they investigate a West Fargo school teacher. Ron Thompson turned in his resignation as educator, but there's no word as to why. Let's check in live as West Fargo school leaders are set to formally deal with the resignation. Valley News Team's Devin Fry joins us with that story. Devin?
Mike, I'm outside of the West Fargo School Board building right now, where they're meeting as we speak, and one of the items on the docket is going to be discussing Thompson's resignation. Now, what we know so far, Thompson was contacted by West Fargo authorities and served a warrant. He then turned in his resignation effective immediately. Now, what we do know is that principals from West Fargo and Cheyenne high schools where Thompson taught sent out notices to their teachers saying to be on the lookout for Thompson and contact administrators if he shows up at the schools. They also said to let them know if he tried to contact any students. So they're going to be talking about his resignation in this school board meeting. So we're going to be watching this, and we're going to have the latest along with everything we know tonight at 9 and 10. But for right now, reporting from West Fargo, Devin Fry, Valley News Live.
Thanks, Devin. According to the school district, Thompson was a teacher in the Career and Technology Education Department. He served as an advisor for the Technology Student Association. Up in Fargo North, the high school hockey team coaches and players are finishing up a quarantine period after some members tested positive for COVID-19. Established COVID protocols were followed. The Spartans canceled 2 varsity games on February 5th and 6th. They also canceled Saturday's planned JV matchup against Fargo Davies. Now, the varsity game against Fargo South for February 9th is still on schedule. More Minnesotans will have access to the COVID-19 vaccine. Walmart and Thrifty White are participating in a feral retail pharmacy program which launches this week. The 2 pharmacies will be administering more than 16,000 doses at locations across the state to those ages 65 and up. Minnesota is also reallocating 8,000 doses for Walgreens across the state. This will be one-time reallocation of doses not scheduled for use this week from the Pharmacy Partnership Program. Over at Altru Hospital in Grand Forks, it's reminding you to not share registration links for scheduled community vaccination appointments. Many steps have been taken, including cancellations of appointments. 360 appointments were canceled because people didn't meet the criteria of Phase 1B, Tiers 1 and 2. Now, there's some good news that none of the doses have been wasted. Appointments through Grand Forks Community Vaccination will only be scheduled through its waiting list. Through that process, you will be contacted for scheduling exclusively through Altru. You should never use links received from family, friends, members, and coworkers. Those that are eligible are contacted from Altru and can only use registration links themselves. Those 75 and over and those 65 to 75 with high-risk medical conditions can contact the COVID-19 hotline at the number provided at the bottom of your screen to schedule a COVID-19 vaccine shot. In other news tonight, Minnesota House Republicans have laid out a roadmap for lifting coronavirus restrictions on businesses with a goal of resuming full operations on May 1st. Representative Dave Baker says that the downward trends in COVID-19 cases and other key metrics, plus rising vaccination rates, mean that businesses can operate safely with the proper precautions in place. The head of the Hospitality Association in Minnesota says a bill expected to surface this week is a reasonable and balanced approach. Keep an eye on your speedometer in Minnesota. There's an enforcement crackdown due in part to the pandemic. The state saw a 12% increase in deaths caused by speed-related accidents last year, despite fewer drivers on the road because of the pandemic. The nearly 400 traffic fatalities in 2020 were the most the state has had in 5 years. 6 of the 23 fatal crashes across the state this year so far were found to have been due to excessive speeding. Later on Valley News Live at 6, been on a spending spree with your credit card of late? What you can do to try and get rid of that unwanted plastic debt.
And the lack of heat continues. Dangerous wind chills already in Fargo, but a look just to the north showing just how dangerous they are. Our protracted period of cold weather continues. I'll have the latest coming up right after this.